My brother Henry was he had a hip replacement, and he was sent to Niagara Rehab in Niagara Falls on Cedar Ave. He was sent there, and he was supposed to be getting rehab therapy and getting better, be able to walk. Well, he got an infection. Only no one would help him. He went to he had requested several times to see a doctor. He even called 911 to take him to the hospital. When I came to see him, there was about as big as a cell phone or a sponge of a pocket under his back, and he was in so much pain. And when I came to see him, he was just writhing in pain in his chair. So I called 911. Called 911 to get him to the hospital because there was something really wrong with him. And I had been asking for nurses, a supervisor, HIPAA papers, anything I could to get someone, the director of the hospital. I never got to see anyone. Only time I saw anyone is when I called 911, and a nursing supervisor named Brenda came to the room, and when I told her what was wrong, she said, "Oh, we have a great relationship." And she said she had talked to the doctor, and if we promised to stay at the hospital, she would give him morphine and lab work the next day. So it was a bribe. And even the EMTs couldn't believe what was being said, and we did take him to the hospital. The hospital, he went to Mount St. Mary's in Lewiston, who couldn't believe he was alive. Then they got him stabilized and transferred him to Mercy Hospital in South Buffalo. Then once they found out a little bit was going on, although I had requested ECMC, they finally sent him to ECMC. And he had an infection in his back so bad he was septic, he had MRSA. They had to remove the infection from his back and try to fix it. They were able to, even though the infection had eaten the backbone, they were able to find enough that they could add some more into his back. After that surgery, he was getting better, and we thought he was getting better, but he kept needing blood transfusions because the infection had just gone through his whole body. So now he has heart failure. His heart is at about 20%. He's got kidney failure, and he's not making red blood cells. And he needs to get transfusions all the time, although when he gets the transfusions, it makes him ill. He has a reaction to it. Then they have to admit him back to the hospital. Then after he's at the hospital, then they send him back to the nursing home. Well, we never went back to Niagara Rehab. We then went to Buffalo Rehab on Delaware, and he was in there for 1 week, but his hand blew up, and I had asked nurses to check him. He had a really bad urinary tract infection. I had asked nurses to check him, and no one did. So again, I had called the nurse and told them I wanted him at the hospital. Went to the hospital again. They told me they don't know how he's alive. So that's again where he was septic throughout his body, and they ended up having to put him on breathing tube and feeding tubes. Then they had to do back surgery again because the infection was back in his back again. And once they did that, he was in the hospital for 2 months. I think it was almost 3 months. And they were trying to kick us out of the hospital. The doctor actually told us there's nothing more we can do for him. Not knowing if that meant he was going to hospice or just there's nothing more we can do, this is the way it's going to be. And they told us we had to leave. I came one night and there was 2 notes for me telling me I had to choose a nursing home for him by the end of that night. And I couldn't, obviously, because I hadn't had the time to review them and see where's the best place he could be. So I did find a nursing home for him, and it was a 4-star. Mind you, there's still issues. There's not a lot of staffing at night, which makes it hard. People need things and they can't get them because there's not enough staffing. But it is overall better than where he was.
This one?
This one that we're in at Schofield right now. Although there have been a few incidents like being left at the hospital and no one knew where he was at. There have been other issues as far as paperwork. He's been cut off of his physical therapy and he's doing so well. When he came here he was a vegetable and now he's able to stand up with the parallel bars and he is able to scooch over. He still can't walk yet, but he's able to sit in a wheelchair where he hadn't been in a wheelchair and he hasn't walked in over a year. And now he's at least standing, so that part is good. But all the things that you have to go through to help a loved one go through this, it's a full-time job. You don't know who to go to, how to go to them, what the rules are. Do they think you're a pain in the ass because you keep asking questions and requesting answers? Absolutely, and you just have to deal with it.
Yeah, tell me about the hardest part about having a loved one in a nursing home, so what it's like.
The hard thing for someone who, a caretaker, or family member, a husband, whatever, the hardest thing is you have to go to work. You have to do your job, do it well. Then you have to come and take care or be with that person to make them still feel loved and cared about. And not only that, but to check up on what is going on and that no one's taking advantage and that they're eating correctly, being changed correctly, given the medications that they need, having blood tests taken, having lab tests taken, and actually having to follow through. Then you also have to find out things the hard way. There was a phone that he could get for $4 that we knew nothing about. There is a bus pass that he can get for $4 versus $90. Oh yes, also in Niagara, I wanted to just tell you this, Niagara Rehab, this is part of the fighting, is that Niagara Rehab had his money stopped because they had told someone at Social Security or social or disability that he did not have the mental capacity to handle his own finances, and that they stopped his money from coming. They had the money going to Niagara Rehab for the months of September, October, November. We found out where the money went. Someone changed his password. Someone made it out to Niagara Rehab, and he was out of there as of July 3rd. And they were getting money for the time from July 3rd until we finally caught up with Social Security. We got the money, he just started getting it back this month.
So he was no longer a resident there?
No.
And they were still billing his account?
They had never taken his money before until September of this year. I don't know who did it. We all called, tried to find out. They said they had sent it back, but I don't know why they billed it since he hadn't been there since July. No, they didn't send it back. It is so extremely hard for people, families, to go through a loved one being in this kind of a situation. You are trying to live your lives, but yet you're worrying about this other person. And it just happens that everybody seems to work the same hours you do. So you can very seldom get a hold of the people that you need to get a hold of. You don't know what's going on from minute to minute. The doctors are telling you one thing, then another crew of doctors come and tell you another thing. But you don't, when you're taking them to the hospital and you're trying to soak in everything that's wrong, and is he going to make it? Are they doing the right things? And then you're going home at night exhausted, just completely drained physically and mentally, and then get up in the morning and do it all over again and call and check up and call the nurses station to make sure everything is okay, because maybe that person can't talk at that time, but you have to call and make sure that they're doing okay, they made it through the night. And then what's coming next, and then to go to work, do your job, and hopefully do it well, and then have to come back right after work again. And I've actually had to leave my husband and my kids and grandchildren and be with my brother because there's nobody else for him to be with or to check up on him. Occasionally he'll have a few visitors, but basically it's me. And it's very hard to make sure that everything that I'm doing is good for him, and only helping him and not hurting him. And maybe I have to push a little bit, maybe I have to fight a little bit, and maybe I have to sometimes push and fight with him a little bit too. But it's all worth it if it can help them, because I've seen people that they have no one and there's nothing, and they're just there.
She's made some little